Com. Remember, Big Lou's like you. He's on meds too.
Hey, Olgama, I've been hearing a lot about this term, climate justice. What is that?
Climate justice is recognizing that the negative impacts of climate change don't affect all people equally. It also means transitioning from a fossil fuel-based economy to a more sustainable future. MN350 is one of the groups that's pushing for this transition to protect our futures. You can even get involved too.
That's great, especially since I'm concerned about pipeline projects like Line 3. How can I help MN350?
Just find them on Facebook or visit mn350.org.
Hey, Cudahy to all my friends and relatives in four directions. This is Robert Pilot of Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake. I'm here to ask you for your support. Finding honest Native-centered news is not easy, but with your support, we're able to provide accurate information about Standing Rock, Line 3, treaty violations, and COVID-19 in our Native communities. Please visit Native Roots Radio Network on Patreon and donate if you can. That's Native Roots Radio Network on Patreon. Pinigigi, and thank you for your support.
Minnesota has the only original wolf population in the continental United States, and 80% of Minnesotans believe the wolf should be protected. Howling for Wolves is asking Minnesotans to respect our true wildlife manager, the wolf. Their survival is critical to our ecosystems, our communities, and even our economy. As highly intelligent animals with strong social bonds, Minnesota wolves deserve to be protected and admired. Learn more at howlingforwolves.org. Let's live and let howl.
The Department of Indian Work partnered with the Minnesota Department of Health to open the Twin Cities American Indian COVID-19 hotline. Now you can call the Twin Cities American Indian COVID-19 hotline Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. and Saturday and Sunday from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. You can also schedule a free COVID-19 vaccine at the Minnesota State Fairgrounds. Appointments are available for residents 16 years of age and older. Vaccines are available to certain residents of Hennepin, Ramsey, Anoka, and Dakota counties. Call the Minnesota American Indian COVID-19 hotline at 651-304-9986 to find out when you can get your free COVID-19 vaccination. Appointments are available April 16th through June 19th. Call the Twin Cities American Indian COVID-19 hotline at 651-304-9986. That's 651-304-9986.
With a look at your AM 950 weather, I'm Patrick Lilia. A slight chance of showers and thunderstorms this evening with an overnight low of 46. Better chance of showers and thunderstorms on Tuesday with a high of 60. Cafe Latte at Victoria Street and Grand Avenue in St. Paul provides an award-winning array of salads, sandwiches, and soups, treats from the bakery made fresh daily, and a pizza and wine bar. Check them out today at cafelatte.com.
Portions of Native Roots Radio may be pre-recorded.
It's a good day to be indigenous.
Get up, stand up.
They are going to become more brutal.
Couldn't cut, hitting cut again.
Because all the hippies were trying to be Indians anyway.
They're going to become more repressive because it's a matter of dollars and their illusionary concepts of power.
Hey, Victor.
We must live in balance with the earth.
And also with recent happenings at Wounded Knee.
I am awake. Hey, Cudahy to all my friends and relatives in four directions. You're listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Wakanja Hade, Distant Thunder. My colonized name is Robert Pilot, and taxpayer name is Robert Pilot. Hey, we discuss Native issues nationally and locally, and as you know, Wendy, Native issues are human issues, and human issues are Native issues.
This portion of the show is brought to you by the Twin Cities American Indian COVID-19 hotline. You could call them at 651-304-9986. They're open Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. and Saturday and Sunday from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m.
Perfect. So today's one of those gloomy days.
Yeah.
I know you just told me a little news before we got
Just
on.
popped up on my phone. A Minnesotan under the age of 10 just died of COVID-19, health officials reported today. Although rare, even healthy children can suffer serious consequences from the virus. This is the third juvenile fatality in the state. And you could read more from MinPost.
Yeah, MinPost is right on it. Well, we try to talk about indigenous, and as we know, Native issues are human issues, and human issues are Native issues. And so we lead off the show with Ogama, who has news off from all over Turtle Island. And so let's get with her right away because I don't know what's going on and I want to hear
I
what's
don't
happening.
either.
I want to hear what's happening. Welcome, Ogama.
Hi, Anim Bonjour, Robert, Wendy. Welcome everybody who's tuning in from wherever you are. As always, I'm going to start with some updates on the Line 3 fight for upcoming events. Tomorrow at 7 p.m. in Park Rapids, Minnesota, Park Rapids from 7 to 9. Honor the Earth is hosting Salsa at Sunset, Tuesdays for the Water to Stop Line 3. Wednesday at 3:30 to 4:30, Honor the Earth is hosting Wednesdays for Water Dance at the Pollen Babe in Bemidji, Minnesota. And then on Monday, May 3rd, from 5 to 7:30 p.m. is going to be Mondays for the Mississippi, which is hosted by the Wild Rice Protector Camp in Bagley and Honor the Earth. That is an event that's going to be happening every Monday for the Mississippi. They're going to be meeting at camp and caravanning to the Mississippi with Wabanoo Little Wolf's hand drum and songs about water. The meal is provided, so if you're in that area, make sure you tune in. In live Line 5 events coming up on Tuesday, tomorrow at 6:15 p.m. Central Time, there's going to be a watch party about how the battle over Line 5 has gone international. And that event is put on by Great Lakes Now, which is a news company or a news source in Michigan. And if you don't know too much about Line 5 is an Enbridge pipeline that runs underneath the Straits of Mackinac in Michigan, and the governor, Gretchen Whitmer of Michigan, has given Enbridge an eviction notice and asked them to shut down their pipeline by, I believe it's May 13th of 2021, which is coming up here in a little less than a month. Enbridge has basically made it clear that they're not going to shut down that pipeline in Michigan, and is currently arguing with the state about whether or not the state has autonomy to determine if that pipeline can be shut down. If you guys remember, for Line 3 here in Minnesota, Enbridge argued that Minnesota had the right to, well, they didn't argue anything when the governor of Minnesota agreed to let the pipeline come through. But when the governor of Michigan says they don't want it to come through, now they're arguing in Michigan that this needs to go to federal court. So that's just a little background on that. But that event looks like it's going to be really good because this is turning into an international problem. Because obviously we know the Great Lakes are bordering the U.S. and Canada, and Enbridge is a Canadian company as well. So moving on to other upcoming events, make sure you mark your calendars for the upcoming event on Sunday, May 9th from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. It's called Mayday, Mayday for Mother Earth, and it's hosted by the Welcome Water Protectors Camp, Honor the Earth, and Stop Line 3. It is going to be Anishinaabe or First Nations women water protectors who are going to paddle the Mississippi River. You can RSVP to the event by signing up online. I believe I did share that event to Native Roots Radio, so make sure you check that out. Earth Day, GNU Collective founder Tara Houska testified to Congress with Greta Thunberg and others about Line 3 and the critical importance of strengthening Indigenous sovereignty as a solution to climate crisis. I can post the link to that full testimony that's available on YouTube on Native Roots Radio. But Tara was also on MSNBC this weekend speaking on land acknowledgements and the push to return federal land to Indigenous people. So there's a lot of really big things happening in the Stop Line 3 and other movements to Stop Line 5 and DAPL. So those things are kind of unfolding as we go, and as we get closer to Enbridge starting construction again on Line 3, most likely sometime coming up here in early June, we can expect more information and more activities coming through. Some more updates on Line 5 news. 28 entities, including 16 states and the District of Columbia, 4 Native American tribes, 6 environmental organizations, and the Great Lakes Business Network submitted court briefs in support of the Michigan Attorney General's motion to remand the state of Michigan with their right to enforce their own laws in their own court in response to Enbridge Energy's lawsuit, indicating that it has to go federal. So there's a lot of support and a lot of things happening over in Michigan with Line 5 at the same time this is happening with Line 3. In news of the Dakota Access Pipeline, attorneys for the Standing Rock Sioux Tribe in North Dakota and South Dakota said that the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers unlawfully authorized the Dakota Access Pipeline without fully assessing the risks. We may all know this. However, Standing Rock and other tribes filed a response in federal court on Friday, basically saying that the owners of the pipeline, who claimed that shutting down the pipeline would be a major economic blow to several entities, the Dakota Access or the Standing Rock lawyers are saying that those figures presented by the Dakota Access Pipeline owners rely on unsupported hearsay and exaggeration. The reason that this is important is because the state of North Dakota and the Mandan, Hidatsa, and Arikara, also known as the MHA Nation in North Dakota, have expressed major concern with the Dabble pipeline being cut down. The MHA Nation does export oil from their reservation, and they're concerned because a lot of their oil is sent via the Dabble pipeline. So this is kind of an ongoing process here, and it's an unusual situation that the MHA Nation sovereign tribe does have a stake in a pipeline like this actually going through, which has kind of put them a little bit at odds with the Standing Rock Nation in some of this. So it's a very tense situation happening in North Dakota right now. But on Friday, again, the Federal Court of Appeals denied the request from the Dabble pipeline to reconsider the panel's ruling for a new environmental review, while one of its permits remain revoked. So basically what's going to happen is the U.S. District Judge James Boasberg is going to have to rule on whether or not the pipeline needs to shut down during the review process or whether or not it's going to continue. So there was an update in that. The last thing I want to touch on is census results are in. Minnesota held on to its 8th congressional seat with the census by just about 89 people. So if 89 more people in the census have been counted in New York, Minnesota would have lost a congressional district.
Oh, wow.
And then for Wisconsin, they stayed the same as well. So we definitely are glad that there's no big changes in that in Minnesota and Wisconsin. And then up next, we have Angelica Allery from MUSAC, or the Minnesota Indigenous Women's Minnesota Indigenous Women's Sexual Assault Coalition, to talk about the upcoming collaborative art installation at the Minnesota Capitol. So stay tuned for that.
Wow, I wanted to say that. Hey, so we're excited to have Angelica on and talk things out. Also, it's amazing. You know, we worked really hard on the census, Native Roots Radio, and all our symposiums.
Yep.
So thank goodness now we got to vote that Stauber out and the other Republican in those other seats, because that was the seat that was going to be lost up there, seat 1 or whatever. But hey, you're listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and we'll be right back after this short message.
Stay with us.
Hey, Wendy, what are we doing for dinner after the show?
How about we go to J. Selby's on 169 Victoria Street in St. Paul? They have a delicious plant-based menu that's compassionate and environmentally sustainable.
I'm getting their spot-on vegan Big Mac, the dirty secret.
You can pick up and they deliver within a 5-mile radius, or you can call them at 651-222-3263 or visit jselbys.com.
Well, you sold me, Wen. Let's go order at J. Selby's tonight.
I'm hungry.
We are your relatives.
We are your relations.
Brothers.
Sisters.
Sons.
Daughters.
And some of us are your grandchildren.
We are your community. Historically, we held places of honor and respect. Because of the impact of colonization, some of us are rejected, thrown out from family, friends, and community, set up as targets for sexual violence, sex trafficked, humiliated, tortured, and murdered. Everybody has the right to be safe. We are your relatives. Remember,
homophobia is not traditional.
Sponsored by the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition.
Minnesota has the only original wolf population in the continental United States, and 80% of Minnesotans believe the wolf should be protected. Howling for Wolves is asking Minnesotans to respect our true wildlife manager, the wolf. Their survival is critical to our ecosystems, our communities, and even our economy. As highly intelligent animals with strong social bonds, Minnesota wolves deserve to be protected and admired. Learn more at howlingforwolves.org. Let's live and let howl.
Hey, Ogama, I've been hearing a lot about this term, climate justice. What is that?
Climate justice is recognizing that the negative impacts of climate change don't affect all people equally. It also means transitioning from a fossil fuel-based economy to a more sustainable future. MN350 is one of the groups that's pushing for this transition to protect our futures. You can even get involved too.
That's great, especially since I'm concerned about pipeline projects like Line 3. How can I help MN350?
Just find them on Facebook or visit mn350.org.
Welcome back to Native Roots Radio Presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Wakanja Hare.
This portion of the show is brought to you by the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition.
All right. Hey, we last minute guests, we love that because it's spontaneity. And then we're going to have Dr. Antony Stately on next, our normal Monday person, and get some COVID updates and maybe talk a little bit about that sad news, Wendy, that you alluded to in the beginning of the show. I want to welcome one of my all-time favorite people, Angelica Allery, who's a membership and outreach coordinator for Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition. And we are really blessed to have you, and they're blessed to have you too. And we want to talk about your upcoming event and the work you do. So, Angelica, welcome.
Uju, thanks for having me, everyone. Nibinabe Kwe Indigenous, Mayangan and Dudame. Buju, everyone. My name is Angelica Allery. I'm the membership and outreach coordinator at the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition. So this event that I'll be talking about is going to be on May 5th. And without our collaborative efforts of multiple organizations working to put on this, project live art installation for our missing and murdered Indigenous women and relatives. This is in partnership with RDC3, funded by Reclaim the Black, Minnesota Indian Women's Resource Center, Anishinaabe Academy, AM 950 Native Roots Radio, Metropolitan Urban Indian Directors, and others working together. So I wanted to say a few things, a little bit more information on what is MIWR. So Indigenous women, girls, men, boys, and our LGBTQIA and Two-Spirit, transgender, and non-conforming people continue to be targeted for murder, abduction, and go missing across Minnesota's urban, rural, and reservation populations, disappearing at alarming rates with very little public visibility and justice. The Minnesota Task Force report says that Indigenous people make up only 1% of Minnesota's population, yet make up 8% of those missing and murdered. In any given month between 2012 and 2020, there are 27 to 54 missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls in Minnesota. So since 2017, grassroots action has been made on May 5th in honor and to call for justice for missing and murdered Indigenous women, girls, and our relatives. It's grown increasingly over the years, but this is a national movement. During February, we have had a march over in Minneapolis at the American Indian Center. And, since this year and last year, COVID really spiked, we have not had a parade, but on May 5th this year, we'll be having a live art installation and open mic for survivors and families who've been affected and are healing through the missing and murdered Indigenous women's and relatives movement. And so we wanted to ask and share and spread awareness and invite you to come to the Minnesota State Capitol over in St. Paul, Minnesota. And we have a volunteer event that'll be happening on May 5th between 10 a.m. and 1 p.m. And so that'll be a time for volunteers, community members, families, anybody who really wants to come and help prep for the event on that day. And the live art and open mic will be happening from 2 to 4 p.m. on May 5th. So if you're interested in helping volunteer, you can visit our Facebook page, Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition. We have an event page created as well. That event page is National Day of Awareness for Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women and Relatives, and we'll be sharing it on our page, so you'll be able to find it. We are having a call out for red jingle dress dancers to be a part of the healing moment and come together for us to celebrate and move the task force of missing and murdered Indigenous relatives and women forward. And this is really about raising awareness, coming together in community, and just to support one another, support our families, support our relatives. And we'll be having that open mic between 2 and 4 p.m. And so we really encourage families, relatives to come speak, share your story, raise visibility, and invite your friends and family, community members, coworkers, other organizations who want to come and support for our relatives. And so I just want to say, yeah, miigwech.
That's awesome. Angelica, we have people listening to us all over the country in Madison and Chicago. We're live. Can you explain two things to our audience? And by the way, it sounds like a really good thing that you're going to be doing on the 5th. That sounds great. Talk a little bit about the healing jingle dress, and also how this is really taken off this certain day. And then we have a Native American Month celebration here too in Minnesota.
Yeah. So for the red jingle dress, for the call out for red jingle dress dancers, in the past, at a few events, actually, we've had our women come dance for us, and really bring in that healing dance and song, to support our relatives. And the call out for red jingle dress dancers is just to be in solidarity with each other. We wear red on when we support, and it's really like the color for supporting our MMIR, missing and murdered Indigenous relatives. But if you have a jingle dress and you'd love to come participate and dance, any color is fine. But if you know someone, or if you have a red jingle dress, that'd be really awesome. And we're encouraging everyone to wear red on May 5th in support. But even if you have like a red bandana at any of the past events that we have had, please, feel free to bring them, show your support, but really wearing red.
It's really been exciting over the years, Angelica, is that we've had people from all over the country come to these events. And that's why it's great to have you on and have this call out right now.
Yeah, one year Bernie Sanders' wife came. Didn't she come for the event a couple of years back before the COVID days? So that was probably
that was a
2
February.
years then, right?
That was a February 14th event. But this is kind of bleeding into that because this is more of a national one, correct?
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, yep. This is a more of a national day of awareness for our missing and murdered Indigenous relatives. So, but they linked together. This February we weren't able to meet, but we're hoping that this event on May 5th at the Minnesota State Capitol will really bring publicity and move this well-needed movement forward, and to get more people aware. It's at our state capitol. There's traffic. A lot of people in the neighborhood, in the city. So we want to get everyone involved. And if you're interested in volunteering, please join us. We have a registration link on our Facebook event page, and then you can find more information at the Minnesota Indian Women Sexual Assault Coalition as well.
We'll have that on Native Roots Radio's Facebook page too to link on. Hey, one quick thing. We only got a couple minutes left, Angelica. Can you tell our audience about Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition? Because we run your PSAs 2 or 3 times each show, and just give a little inside information on your organization.
Yeah. We're a tribal sexual assault coalition. So we work with tribes around Minnesota, urban or reservation programs, working to support victims and survivors of sexual assault. Our expertise are, we're really providing culturally specific, tribally specific services to support advocates who are working to, serve and protect our Indigenous women and our children. So really, we're not direct service, but we provide services and resources and support to survivors, or to advocates who work with survivors of sexual assault.
Really strong group. And also this Wednesday, I'm going to be on a panel, a male panel, talking about how important it is for males to support women and stand behind women and also our relatives. And it's going to be a good time. This will be the second time I've done it. And I did a photo shoot, and Wendy and I got a really good picture of ourselves. But that's coming up, I think, 1 o'clock on Wednesday, too. But
Yep.
your organization's awesome. We really love, and every time I have a birthday, which is coming up, Wendy, I'll be 60, is I do my Facebook birthday money to missing Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition, and
Yeah, you always have a fundraiser for that organization. Yeah.
and we love it, and we love you, and really, Oglam, Angelica, thank you so much for stopping in. You got 40 seconds. Give it a quick pitch for the 5th, and for people to come help and come join in.
Yeah, so please, you can like our page. You can find more information on the event or the event page. Please share it out. If you're interested in volunteering, please sign up. We need as many volunteers as we can get. We have thousands of pieces of artwork that we need to install for community, and it's going to be up for a couple days. So please feel free. Please share the link for registration, or just show up on May 5th between 10 and 1, and that's going to be for volunteering to install the art. And then from 2 to 4 is when we're going to be having the drumming and dancing and singing, but then also to have that open mic for families and survivors. So please feel free to join. And then tomorrow we'll be having Wednesday we'll be having a webinar, a healthy men's panel to talk about, what is it like for men? How are we going to stick together to end sexual violence between our women, our children, and our whole community? And so that'll be from 1 to 2:30 this Wednesday, and that'll end our webinars for Sexual Assault Awareness Month for April.
Well, Pina Gigi, I know Wendy and I are so proud to you. We've known you for so long, and you've become a strong Native woman like you're supposed to be, and you are just awesome. And thank you so much for stopping in today.
Miigwech. Thank you so much. Shout out to Ogama.
All right. You're listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and up next, Dr. Antony Stately.
Stay with us. If you're hurting in your relationship or have been affected by sexual violence, you're not alone. Strong Hearts Native Helpline can help you through these difficult and uncertain times. Strong Hearts Helpline is a free 24/7 confidential domestic dating and sexual violence helpline for Native Americans. Help is available by calling 1-844-762-8483 or by clicking on the Chat Now icon on strongheartshelpline.org. This message is sponsored by the National Indigenous Women's Resource Center.
Located just north of 50th in France, the Great Wall Restaurant has provided a delicious taste of authentic Chinese cuisine since 1981. Specializing in Szechuan and Peking dishes, they offer one of the most extensive menus in the Twin Cities. Favorites include hot and sour soup, pan-fried dumplings, and mushu pork with homemade Chinese pancakes. Stop by their Edina location or call for takeout at 952-927-4439. See the full menu at greatwallrestaurant.us.
I'm Rick Unger. You've heard the screamers, you've heard the shouters, the haters, the beraters. Well, now it's time to listen to a real conversation, a rational conversation. Now it's time for the Rick Unger Show.
Listen to the Rick Unger Show weeknights from 8 to 10 p.m. on AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota. Stream at am950radio.com or search KTNF on the TuneIn app.
Not only does Rudy Luther Toyota have a great selection of new vehicles, but Rudy Luther is also one of the largest volume Toyota certified used vehicle dealers in the country. They have better prices than many non-certified dealers, offer the 7-year, 100,000-mile warranty, and all their vehicles go through a comprehensive inspection and reconditioning process. And they pay you top dollar for your trade-in, even if you didn't buy your vehicle from them or if you're not going to buy your next vehicle from them. Rudy Luther Toyota, the southeast corner of 394 and 169 in Golden Valley.
Hi, this is Desi Doyen of the Green News Report and the Bradcast. You're listening to AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota.
When you're trying to stay safe, you want the best protection possible. And when it comes to PPE, that means Lutema. Made in the USA with the highest quality materials, Lutema has mask sizes for all. Lutema masks pass ASTM Level 3 and NIOSH efficiency standards and come in a wide variety of colors and types, including M95i. Get your American-made face mask at Lutema.com. That's Lutema.com. and get 40% off your first purchase single item with promo code RADIO at lutema.com.
The Department of Indian Work partnered with the Minnesota Department of Health to open the Twin Cities American Indian COVID-19 hotline. Now you can call the Twin Cities American Indian COVID-19 hotline Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. and Saturday and Sunday from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. You can also schedule a free COVID-19 vaccine at the Minnesota State Fairgrounds. Appointments are available for residents 16 years of age and older. Vaccines are available to certain residents of Hennepin, Ramsey, Anoka, and Dakota counties. Call the Minnesota American Indian COVID-19 hotline at 651-304-9986 to find out when you can get your free COVID-19 vaccination. Appointments are available April 16th through June 19th. Call the Twin Cities American Indian COVID-19 hotline at 651-304-9986. That's 651-304-9986.
With a look at your AM 950 weather, I'm Patrick Lilia. A slight chance of showers and thunderstorms this evening with an overnight low of 46. Better chance of showers and thunderstorms on Tuesday with a high of 60. Cafe Latte at Victoria Street and Grand Avenue in St. Paul provides an award-winning array of salads, sandwiches, and soups, treats from the bakery made fresh daily, and a pizza and wine bar. Check them out today at cafelatte.com.
Hi, this is Representative Sharice Davids from Kansas. I'm Ho Chunk, and you're listening to Native Roots Radio.
We are the Calusa Nation. Hey, welcome back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake.
This portion of the show is brought to you by the Twin Cities American Indian COVID-19 hotline. You could call them at 651-304-9986. They're open Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. and Saturday and Sunday from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m.
Wow, that was excellent. Hey, it's Monday, so we get to see our friend Dr. Stately, and Dr. Stately is the CEO at the Native American Community Clinic, and we are always pleased to have him on and get some kind of updates. Before we get going, Dr. Stately, we talked about this young boy in the beginning of the show that I think it was a boy that passed away from COVID.
Yeah, they didn't mention the sex of the child, but the child was under 10 years old. The child lived in southwestern Minnesota and is the third person under the age of 18 to die of COVID-19 in Minnesota. So it's a sad thing that, children are getting sick. Yeah,
exactly. Welcome, and I like your shirt. I like that Ho Chunk shirt you have on. We are the people of the sacred voice and the special voice too. Hey, so thank you for coming on, and sorry to start out with a kind of a blue thing, but I feel blue. It's gray out. I don't know what's going on here, but maybe I need to sleep more. I don't know, but welcome.
Maybe, possibly. The weather, what the weather's kind of, the weather usually affects a lot of people's moods, but, it reminds me of living in Seattle, and I kind of liked living in Seattle. So, and I lived there for about almost 5 years, and I kind of got used to the rainy, gloomy weather, so it doesn't bother me and affect me as much, I think.
Wendy lived there too. She always tells me stories about it.
I lived in Olympia. Washington, and I lived there for just over a year. Back in 1985. And yes, it did rain a lot.
Yeah. So, but there was a lot of things to love about it too. All that rain made it really lush and beautiful. So, that was bad. That is sad news to hear about a young one dying, and I think it's always a tragic anytime we lose a young one. In any way, but we know that according to the state Minnesota Department of Health's dashboard, the COVID-19 dashboard, and anybody can get that information. Visit the you can go into your Google search engine and just do Minnesota Department of Health COVID-19 dashboard, and it'll come up. You can kind of scroll through the data and look at it has it arranged by all kinds of different things, but some of the more recent data suggests that we are having, with the variants, with the outbreak of the variants, that we are seeing it affect and impact children at a much higher rate than previously. So like the first kind of, they talk about COVID-19 in waves, right? So the first wave or so, like from last March through probably late summer, I guess, saw much more of a sort of a broader impact on in early fall, saw a much more broader impact on adults, and and a very big impact on elderly people 65 and over in in congregate living type situations. Those are the folks that were getting very, very sick and dying at a much higher rate than the rest of the population. But these variants are very, very transmissible. So
yeah, I'm excited, Doctor, is that I've been back to school for 2 weeks, and I really see no issues with our young ones wearing masks, and so that warms my heart because Wendy and I will go. I don't know. I don't even want to say where we were yesterday. And
Well, we had to go to the mall, not the big mall, but we had to go to the mall to the iPhone store because I was having a problem with my phone, and we did see a few people, and we walk into the mall and it says masks required. There's signs all over the place.
Yeah.
And we saw a few people with no masks. The masks weren't even down around their neck, like they were not wearing a mask. So
So, Dr. Fauci, you've been talking about how important masks are, and it warms my heart that the school I teach at, that the kids are really taking this serious.
Yeah, that is encouraging news. And I know that there are a lot of people that are not wearing masks. There is a overwhelming. There was research that was done, like so public opinion polls and a number of other things that sort of seem to suggest that the majority of folks who are less likely to wear a mask, less likely to get vaccinated, in our state, but also just in across the nation, are those states where there's very strong Republican demographic. The majority of over 50% of Republicans in any given sort of county or part of the country are likely not to get the vaccine, which is disappointing and disheartening because, of course, a virus doesn't have a brain. It doesn't, it's apolitical. It doesn't really sort of like, have any, it doesn't have the capacity to sort of like, make political decisions. But anyway, I was going to make a really terse comment there, but I decided not to. That's just, I can be salty at times. But the point being is that, what we're seeing is like, is that when people don't wear masks, they are placing themselves, not just themselves, they're placing actually the people around them at great risk, right? So if you don't wear a mask and when you're out in public, and even if you've been vaccinated and even if you've been sick before, which I've had both. I had COVID-19 in November, and I've also been fully vaccinated. But I wear a mask every time I leave the house, every time I go anywhere that's outside of my home, and if I'm in public. I do that because I don't want to get something from somebody and then bring it back to somebody that I love. I also don't want to pick something up and then transmit it externally to other people in other settings, right? Work, vacation, the store,
I just want to be clear is that you had COVID-19 first and then you were vaccinated after.
Yeah.
Listening in Madison and Chicago now that may not know your story, but I just wanted to be clear with that.
Yep. I got COVID in November and then I got vaccinated in March of this year. So I had to, I would have gotten vaccinated sooner, but somebody told me I had to wait. Some people had told me I had to wait.
Mm-hmm. I've had two people ask me the same question, and they've said to me, so Wendy, you're fully vaccinated. Why would you care if someone came into your house and hung out with you if they don't want to get vaccinated? And what I say to them is, listen, the vaccine is not 100%, although it would be a very low risk of me getting COVID. Why should I put myself at risk in my own home, whether it be 10%, 5%, or even a 2% chance of me getting getting COVID again, since I've been vaccinated? Why should I have to put myself at risk in my own home? So the rule that we have in our house is that you can't come in our house and hang out with us if you have not been vaccinated. And that's, we'll hope for a nice day and we could sit outside. But I don't really feel like, I should or Robert should have to put ourselves at risk for anyone who just doesn't want to get vaccinated for whatever reason.
Yeah, and I thought it was because we didn't like them because they didn't get vaccinated that they weren't involved in their house. But now I find out
it's
no, I get it.
I don't want to be at any risk. And we stayed in our house for a whole year and did what we were supposed to do and not see anybody and avoided it at all costs. I just don't feel like I want to have people in my house that aren't vaccinated.
Ogama, did you have a question for Dr. Stately?
Yeah, like in my household, so myself and my partner are both vaccinated because we were able to be vaccinated either through our tribes or through our employers. However, I have an almost 8-year-old daughter. She'll be 8 next month, and she's not old enough to be vaccinated yet. So we can't be taking those unnecessary risks to bring that home to our child, or taking that risk to be potentially contaminated or spreading that to other people who maybe can't get vaccinated yet. Or even if they are vaccinated, may still get sick. The chances of your hospitalization from COVID are much lower with the vaccine, but that does not mean you will not get COVID. It just means that you are less likely to die. And I think people really need to keep that in mind. It doesn't stop you from getting COVID.
Yeah, that's a really good reminder for folks that, and it is important for us to remember that even if we've gotten vaccinated, it doesn't mean that we can't get reinfected, right? We can't pick up the virus again, especially with the variants sort of kind of like out of control in, the majority of states actually, right? And there's a lot of it circulating in Minnesota. I think also Wisconsin, but I'm not really sure about that. Now that you have a listenership in Wisconsin and more states than just Minnesota, I'm gonna really have to bone up on my information.
Use the Google.
Right. But I think that the really important part of this narrative here is to just recognize that while the vaccine has very high likelihood to protect you from getting very sick should you still pick up the virus. And we've had a couple of cases, NACC hasn't, but we've had a couple cases in the state of Minnesota. We've had more than a handful of cases in the United States where people who have gotten vaccinated have actually caught COVID-19 again, and gotten sick, but maybe not as sick as they normally would. Like they didn't end up hospitalized and they didn't end up, and they also didn't die. So that's a good thing about the vaccine. But it's important to remember that there's these variants circulating, and that those are very dangerous and very highly transmissible.
Dr. Stately, do you have time for maybe a quick few more minutes, the next segment?
Yeah.
That's awesome. You're listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Wakanja Hade, and we're with Dr. Stately, CEO at the Native American Community Clinic, and we want to know what the name of his dog is in the background too. So we're going to ask him some more questions, and that'll be one of them. You're listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake.
Stay with us. Hey, Ogama, I've been hearing a lot about this term, climate justice. What is that?
Climate justice is recognizing that the negative impacts of climate change don't affect all people equally. It also means transitioning from a fossil fuel-based economy to a more sustainable future. MN350 is one of the groups that's pushing for this transition to protect our futures. You can even get involved too.
That's great, especially since I'm concerned about pipeline projects like Line 3. How can I help MN350?
Just find them on Facebook or visit mn350.org.
Hey, Cudahy to all my friends and relatives in four directions. This is Robert Pilot of Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake. I'm here to ask you for your support. Finding honest Native-centered news is not easy. But with your support, we're able to provide accurate information about Standing Rock, Line 3, treaty violations, and COVID-19 in our Native communities. Please visit Native Roots Radio Network on Patreon and donate if you can. That's Native Roots Radio Network on Patreon. Pinigigi, and thank you for your support.
The Department of Indian Work partnered with the Minnesota Department of Health to open the Twin Cities American Indian COVID-19 hotline. Now you can call the Twin Cities American Indian COVID-19 hotline Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. and Saturday and Sunday from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. You can also schedule a free COVID-19 vaccine at the Minnesota State Fairgrounds. Appointments are available for residents 16 years of age and older. Vaccines are available to certain residents of Hennepin, Ramsey, Anoka, and Dakota counties. Call the Minnesota American Indian COVID-19 hotline at 651-304-9986 to find out when you can get your free COVID-19 vaccination. Appointments are available April 16th through June 19th. Call the Twin Cities American Indian COVID-19 hotline at 651-304-9986. That's 651-304-9986.
Anine, I'm Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanagan, and you are listening to Native Roots Radio.
We are the Calusa Nation.
Hi, Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Robert Pilot.
This portion of the show is brought to you by Howling for Wolves, protecting wolves for future generations.
Okay, Dr. Stately mouthed it. I didn't hear him, but
Oh yeah.
He didn't want to wake up his
I
dog.
was just thinking of wake the dog. He's not my dog. I'm babysitting. Well,
Oh, okay.
I should maybe revise that, and I'm going to say it publicly, so then my niece has to follow up on what she promised me. She said that I get to have shared custody of him every other week, like normal dads. She said. And so I've been taking care of him every other week for the last couple of weeks while she was traveling, but.
It's a good sign he's relaxed.
Just laying on the bed, nice and comfy.
Just I got him right before I got on the radio with you, and so he's got a full tummy and he's just laying there sleeping.
Cute. What's his name?
His name is Uzi.
Uzi. Okay.
Yeah, not the son. Uzi, maybe because he oozes lots of fluid from his mouth because he's teething right now. So he's such a sweet dog. Oh my God. I'm sending him away tonight. She's gonna come get him. She's back in town, and my kids will cry and they'll whine for a dog.
Well, we're with Dr. Stately, CEO at a Native American community clinic, and we were wondering, Uzi, when you said that, I was kind of thinking of all medical things. So,
A lot of oozing that happens in the medical clinic. Yeah, so I was thinking that, I'm sure that so much of your listenership also probably has lots of questions and lots of concerns about the J&J vaccine. So the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, which was, recently cleared by the FDA to sort of kind of go back out into circulation and shots in arms. And I know that, I even have some of my own family members that I think that we're concerned about. You'll recall that I was in this TPT, or this PBS NewsHour show, where my cousin and I were talking about her.
And we were in too.
Yeah, and you were as well. And her reluctance to get the vaccine. She was waiting for the Johnson & Johnson vaccine because she's had a history of herself personally of having anaphylactic shock, and she was anxious about the other vaccines. So she was holding out for the J&J vaccine, and now she's convinced that she's not going to take any vaccine whatsoever because she doesn't want to take the chance of getting a blood clot.
Yeah, I
You know,
talked to a couple of people also who are really reluctant on the J&J, and I kind of say, if women are on birth control pills, and there's millions of women on birth control pills. So if you're a woman who's on birth control pill, you have a 1 in 5,000 chance of getting a 5,000. 1 in
5,000.
1 in 5,000 chance of
5,000.
getting blood clots. And the J&J is so much, oh my gosh, you have a better chance of getting hit by lightning or winning the lottery.
Well, they vaccinated over 8 million people.
8 million people.
8 million or something. Yeah, and so only 20 people out of 8 million or so. That's a very, very low frequency.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. And me as a pharmacist, we would have drugs that people would take that would have black box warnings. So these black box warnings are warnings of serious potential serious side effects. And there's over 600 drugs that are given very, very frequently to people in the United States that have these black box warnings. So again, just thinking about that, the J&J blood clot likelihood is really, really very extremely rare. So.
Yeah, very extremely rare. And I think one of the biggest things that I think is kind of important in this within the context of this discussion is to recognize that there are so many places where it is so difficult to get people to come back for a second shot. In fact, I was just watching the news earlier tonight before, like the Nora O'Donnell, CBS, evening news, and they were talking about nationally about several states report that almost 40% of individuals who have gotten the Pfizer vaccine in recent weeks or within or over the last several weeks, 40 or 50% of them who have gotten the first shot have not come back for the second shot. Wow. And there's all kinds of reasons why that might be accurate. I mean, why that might be a contributing factor, right? It's people have to get time off of work to go and get that vaccine. They have to be able to be mobile. Maybe they have small children at home. There's all kinds of reasons and challenges where people would have difficulty coming back 28 days or 21 days later to get a second vaccine. And I think that's just and the single shot vaccine is a good solution for that, for a significant amount of people who have that type of a challenge, right? And then in Minneapolis, our unsheltered homeless population is so transient, and it's really hard to get them back for a second shot, right? We track them down and those kinds of things. And so there's so many situations and conditions in which a single shot makes the most sense because it will help us achieve herd immunity more rapidly as a community and as a society. And so, I think that if you're, at least it's an option, right? I was talking to a relative of mine recently, and we were talking about this thing about the chances of it, getting the blood clot. And I was, really my comedic self that I am. I said, you gobble down fry bread like it's going out of style. Like you're more likely to get a blood clot from that, or a heart attack from that, and die from that than you are from the
Right. Exactly.
One of those prairie dogs.
Exactly.
I'm always reminding people of all the other kinds of things that they do that are more likely to kill them, right, than something like the J&J vaccine. So it's kind of crazy.
Well, I just feel bad, and Wen's got a quick question, but I feel bad that that they took it off and made this big red alert for,
it just shows
15
that
out
they're
of
really being very, very cautious, and that
Yeah,
they're showing
I mean,
how
that
safe
demonstrates
it is.
that demonstrates just how strong and how sound our safety system is, right, with respect to that. So they want to take it off the market, study it, make sure that it's going to be okay, kind of try and figure out the source. And, it's such a narrow bandwidth of people who, a group of individuals who've been identified to be at significant risk for this particular type of blood clot. And it's not blood clots generally, it's a specific type of blood clot that is so incredibly rare and so incredibly rare within a certain population that it's like, my male cousin, I said, well, unless you are of childbearing years and you're, and you have some other body parts that I don't know about, you're probably likely to be okay.
Exactly. Oh my gosh. We
I just
just
snorted.
have about a minute here. But the thing that does worry me, Dr. Stately, is I just read statistics that 1 out of 4 Americans don't want to be vaccinated. And if that is the case, we're not going to reach enough herd immunity to combat this COVID virus. And we're going to be living like this in this masked world for a very long time.
Yeah, those of us that work in healthcare, I think, a big part of my job and my role is to sort of kind of try to figure out what's coming down the pike in a year and 2 years. I gotta not only do I have this sort of I have to keep my eye on what's happening right now, I also have to project out a year or 2 years. I gotta anticipate. And I'm pretty sure that, that we're going to be living with some type of, COVID-19 sort of lag for the next 18 months or so. But I think that, we as Americans, every single one of us have an opportunity to play our part and do our role in trying to, reach herd immunity as rapidly as we possibly can. Right.
Thank you, Dr. Stately. You've been listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake. We'll see you next time.
Hi, this is Laura. Listen to Food Freedom Radio every Saturday at 8 a.m. or anytime via podcast. Our individual health is connected to the